This is the most absurd book ever! Absurdism is the central theme of The Myth of Sisyphus, a book that my philosophical friend recommended to me before reading The Stranger. And one thing from The Myth of Sisyphus to apply to The Stranger is the absurd creation section of the book. Without getting into too much detail about the Myth of Sisyphus absurd creation section, I'll summarize it in 2 quotes. In regards to living with the absurd, I quote, "In this regard, the absurd joy par excellence is creation. Art and nothing but art," said Nietzsche. "We have art in order not to die of truth." So this is a beautiful, amazing quote, and I like thinking about how if we all just have this absurd life that we have to live, then creating is like one of the most powerful things you can do, and also at the same time one of the most absurd things you can do. And the Nietzsche quote is so good. Art and nothing but art. We have art in order not to die of truth. And I think this is just so good about art and truth and the absurd, or existentialism in general, because not that like art is like an illusion or like a lie, but like art makes us love our truths more. Like like I just watched the new Spider-Man Brand New Day movie, and that movie will make you love your life so much more. I'm telling you. And that's what the quote means. And now for the second quote. "For the absurd man, it is not a matter of explaining and solving, but of experiencing and describing. Everything begins with lucid indifference." That's another amazing quote. Experiencing and describing, because that's all you have. And then everything begins with lucid indifference. That, I will talk about that later in the second half. That will be in the spoiler zone of this review. After reading The Stranger, one can come to the conclusion that this is an absurd man living his days in an absurd world. From the events that take place to the descriptions and monologuing/narration, the reader gets an understanding of what the book is about and how it gets told in the first paragraph. Whether you're interested in absurdism or philosophy in general, The Stranger is a unique perspective on life and can be understood by countless fans. I mean countless. Everyone knows this book and they all love it. This is what makes Camus or any writer a great artist. Translating an idea or concept into a work of art that can be understood by the general public. I think reading The Myth of Sisyphus did help a lot with the philosophy of the book, but it is not a necessity. There is enough in The Stranger to understand the book itself without any prior existential knowledge. This is my first experience with a philosophical fiction book, and my first fiction book in around a decade, but I felt like this book was more focused on fiction and then implying the absurdist philosophy into the fiction. Or a better way to think of it is you have this underlying essence of absurdism, and then on top of that, then you start writing the story. You start writing The Stranger. I thought it would be more philosophical, but this way of living the philosophy, which I like to think of it as, may be better than just explicitly talking about absurdism, which is why I do agree that if one very interested in philosophy and Camus should then read The Myth of Sisyphus before The Stranger. Quoting The Myth of Sisyphus, absurd creation section again, "The great novelists are philosophical novelists. That is the contrary of thesis writers. Fiction is a perfect way to live the philosophy, and is probably why it exists in the first place." And going back to the Nietzsche quote, "Art and nothing but art," said Nietzsche, "We have art in order not to die of truth." Because I think that quote means living out your truths in a new perspective through the lens of fiction. Not to say objectively that one should read The Myth of Sisyphus before reading The Stranger, because the experience of living the philosophy you get from The Stranger, then learning about its deeper philosophy sounds fun and a great way to learn about absurdism. Now I will read off my noteworthy takes from the book. And this is spoiler warning. This is now we're going to talk about the actual book and the contents of the book. So this is spoilers. Okay, so the first chapter, the descriptions of everything and how the events played out and narrated was awesome. And that's going to be just a reoccurring theme this entire book. And for chapter 2, it was about the entire chapter, I think, was just a Sunday. And it was just really cool how he described it. And like, it just, oh my God, dude. It like you read that shit and you feel like you're in Sunday in whatever little fucking town he lives in whatever the fuck of planet Earth. And for chapter 3, when Mansour, I think that's his name, I'm just gonna refer to him as the MC. When the MC wants to or has to write the Raymond's letter for his girl, he said yes to writing it because he had no reason not to please him. And this is just how the MC is. As Raymond and the MC's relationship builds, which was a delight to read, the MC says, I don't mind being his friend. The way I interpreted this was that he's indifferent. This is just the entire character he's just indifferent. And I don't know if this goes back to the lucid indifference and how like it's absurd and he's aware that it's all just absurd and it's just all absurd and he's aware of that, so he's lucid. And that's why he's indifferent, because he's lucid of the absurd. And so he has lucid indifference. That's what I think of it as. And that's also another reoccurring theme. And for the chapter 4, the romance, it was good. But when Marie asked if he loved her, it was awkward. And this is the theme of the guy. And that's what like I have the Vintage International translation, and at the beginning of the book it said that he is kind of, at least in the first half I think or some shit, that he is written like the Gary Cooper type, like like to appeal to more American audiences. He was written like,
whatever happened to Gary Cooper, the strong silent type? That was an American. He wasn't in touch with his feelings. He just did what he had to do.
But then later in chapter 4, the guy loses his dog. When he hears him crying that he lost his dog, it says, for some reason I thought of Maman. And Maman is mom, and that was like a good like connection he made there. And then to really feel the indifference, on chapter 5, page 41, he has the opportunity to move to Paris, and he was just like, oh, it's not going to change anything. It doesn't matter to me. And that's just a more indifferent thing. That was kind of stupid though. Because like he literally said when he was like a student, I had lots of ambitions like that, but then he had to give up his studies. He learned that none of it really mattered. I don't like that. That's stupid and like pessimistic. That's not really lucid, I don't think. And then in the next paragraph, he talks about how Marie asked him if he wanted to marry her, and he's like, I said it didn't make any difference to me. And that was like kind of funny, but like that's just this character, is that like, or nothing matters because it wouldn't change anything, but he's just indifferent. And that kind of makes me think like those two interactions are kind of like, maybe it's not like a whole lucid indifference and it's just an indifference, which is like a thing I saw in, that's what I saw in I Heart Huckabees, which is a movie about existentialism. So maybe it's just a existential thing. In chapter 5, he's talking about how like, he's saying that some people in the neighborhood looked or thought badly of him for putting his mom in the retirement home, but he said it was the logical thing to do and he didn't see anything wrong with that. That's also just how this character is. Oh, and then in chapter 6, when he sees Mason and his wife for the first time, he thinks about getting married, and I like that because that's just feels so human for this weirdo. Like he's like we actually get to like see a new side to this guy. That was fun. And then in chapter 6, this also is so the book is divided into 2 parts, and chapter 6 is the ending of part 1, and this is the chapter where he kills the guy. but I didn't really like how it played out. It seemed kind of just unnecessary and not thought out. But then I thought about it and I'm like, psh, that's exactly why it happened, you know? That's like the perfect situation for this book. Still in chapter 6, the relation to the son feeling like when he buried his mother was really good. And the last sentence of part 1 was fire. The last sentence says, and it was like knocking 4 times quick on the door of unhappiness. Now in part 2, and it makes me think that he's not necessarily a villain. He's just an individual caught in a situation. So he wouldn't like seek danger. He's just a unique person caught in a unique situation. The dialogue, so for chapter 2, part 2, the dialogue where he's describing like just what he does in the prison cell is so good. You can like see that shit in your head. Like the way it's all described, it's so like real and like imaginative, like like stimulating of imagination and shit. It's so good. Okay, now here's the story of the newspaper. A man had left a Czech village to seek his fortune. 25 years later, and now rich, he had returned with a wife and child. His mother was running a hotel with his sister in the village where he'd been born. In order to surprise them, he had left his wife and child at another hotel and gone to see his mother, who didn't recognize him when he walked in. As a joke, he'd had the idea of taking a room. He had shown off his money. During the night, his mother and his sister had beaten him to death with a hammer in order to rob him and had thrown his body in the river. The next morning, the wife had come to the hotel without knowing it, gave away the traveler's identity. The mother hanged herself. The sister threw herself down a well. I must have read that story 1,000 times. And then he says, on the one hand, it wasn't very likely. On the other, it was perfectly natural. That's exactly what this character and what this story is. It's so unlikely, but it's so natural. That's this character, dude. And in chapter 3, this is when he starts the court shit starts, and he's like describing it as a trolley or like a streetcar, and how they're just like looking at him and shit. But then like when they all stand up or sit down, then he sees that all his friends like Celeste and Marie and Raymond and everyone is in the jury duty, and he didn't see that before. He just saw people. That was cool. And for chapter 4, it's just more of like chapter 3 and just the courtroom shit. And the prosecutor was just very unsympathetic. And he was like annoying the hell out of me, bro. That prosecutor is a bitch ass. And now for chapter 5, this is it. And this is when he's starting to like think differently. He says like chance and luck had at least once changed something. Just once. We see a new side of him that we haven't seen before, which was cool. And like later in the chapter, I do think he does like change a little. Like we see something he's never done when he was yelling at the Chapman. And then he like kind of, after the verdict, he starts to understand why people do the thing that they do. And the example for that was his mom getting a fiance at her old age. Like I think once he saw the end of his life, then he kind of started to understand it, and that was great. But in the end, he never actually changes. We just see a new side of him, or at least we see a side that we haven't seen before. And it does get more philosophical and absurd at the end, which the Myth of Sisyphus did help with. Like the only time absurd is talked about in this book is in like the last chapter. But that's the myth. That's The Stranger by Albert Camus. This is probably one of the best books I'm ever going to read in my entire fucking life. Holy shit, this book is so fucking... It's only 123 pages too, and The Myth of Sisyphus was also 123 pages, excluding the... But yeah, that was amazing, dude. That book is so fucking good. Holy shit, dude. Amazing book. 10 out of 10.